Hey there, friends. Back in 2015, a few days after 9 members of Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina were gunned down during a Bible study, you might remember, the national leadership of the Episcopal Church, meeting at General Convention, passed a series of resolutions that called on every single Episcopal congregation in this country to find more effective and productive ways to respond to racial injustice as we seek to love our neighbors as ourselves, to respect the dignity of every human being, and to transform the unjust structures of our society. Along with this call to respond to racially motivated violence came the acknowledgement that for a long time, the Episcopal Church has largely failed to adequately confront structures and systems of power. More often, we have supported and enabled those systems and the violence that has ensued from them. And I don't think we can respond to racial injustice in our society and in our churches until we really understand how that injustice works, often in quietly and seemingly invisible ways. So as we begin to get a handle on how it operates here at Trinity, we're seeking to collect some data on the lived experiences of our members and leaders. After a lot of prayer and conversation, Trinity's vestry has embarked upon a journey of learning together. And as a part of that work, we're partnering with the Mission Institute to conduct a racial audit of our congregation. And our recent experiences with congregational surveys have been really powerful for us. Our partnership with the Holy Cow Institute over the last decade has shaped Trinity's strategic priorities. It's helped vestry and staff make some really important decisions about our future. And what we learned when we surveyed you last in 2018 is that this congregation is among the most energized and satisfied congregations in the country. We score higher on drivers of energy and satisfaction than just about any other of the 2,500 congregations surveyed by Holy Cow over the past 20 years. That's great news. But what I said to you 2 years ago when we released the results of that survey was that it might be time for us to get a little bit unsatisfied. I don't think Jesus calls us to safety. I think Jesus calls us to transformation, and when I'm satisfied, when I'm happy with the way things are, I'm not likely to be very responsive to the Spirit's call to change. Highly satisfied congregations can quickly become stagnant congregations. So I think this is our moment. We've just been through a brutal pandemic. We've learned how to do without a lot of things that have sustained us here. And now we're beginning to build again, in some cases from the ground up. This is the right time for us to engage some harder work, to ask challenging questions about our history, the unspoken, often hidden assumptions about culture and leadership and norms and behaviors that have guided us for generations, and what it might take for us to really engage the Spirit's call to grow into a different kind of future, learning how to be church in a very different world than the world our founders imagined 160 years ago. And I want to say one more thing. We're not engaging this survey and the larger work of anti-racism because it's the woke thing to do right now. This is not about dishonoring our past or shaming those who have come before us. I think they're the ones who have set us up well to take this next step. This process of reckoning with racism is not about a fear of being called out or a desire to do what the popular kids are doing. I mean, frankly, the easiest thing would be to hold these questions of identity and structure and power at bay and maintain the status quo. And I know that some of you are worried that the Trinity you love, maybe the Trinity that your ancestors built, is going to change, that it's going to become something that you don't recognize anymore. I hear that fear. I recognize that fear. I know that for lots of us, this conversation is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. But I believe in this process, not because I think it's strategically important. I believe in this process because I think it's where God is calling us to go next. So I can't promise you that you won't get defensive or upset by something that you hear or read or experience. I can promise you that if you're willing to commit with me and our leadership to the hard but important work of telling the truth, we will experience the Spirit of God at work in a way that we didn't imagine was possible. This is holy ground, friends. This congregation is poised, I think, to do something really amazing. So I hope you'll take a moment and participate in this audit. And I hope you'll join us on this journey as we learn to listen more deeply to the stories among us that maybe we haven't learned how to hear, and seek to respond to what the Holy Spirit is doing right now in our very midst.